With the shield of Julianos firmly in our grasp, few items of the Crusader are left for us to collect, and so we speak to the spectre of the former Redguard, Sir Casimir, among the circle of knights, who admits,
I know where you may find the gauntlets of the Crusader, for I was the one who lost them. Though many know where they are still lost. I believe there is something you must do in order to retrieve them. Would you listen to my tale and learn of the Gauntlet's fate?
Happy to oblige and learn the location of the Gauntlets, we say, please tell me.
When the Order fractured, I followed Sir Beric into war, taking the Gauntlets with me. When it was over, I returned to Cyrodiil. I attempted to return to the service of the Nine, but the war had changed me. I no longer had sympathy for the weak or pity for the suffering. In the brief time I was there, I did more to hurt the chapel than help it. It was there that I was cursed.
Although Sir Casimir's tale and affection of his personality wounds him deeply, we can be callous and say, get to the point.
Your attitude does not bode well. Nevertheless, you may yet succeed where I failed.
Instead, we respectfully ask, cursed? What do you mean?
A beggar who came to the chapel each day for help tried my patience one too many times. I lost my temper and struck him. My blow landed harder than I had intended, and he fell to the floor dead, killed in the very chapel of the God of Mercy. I left the chapel at once, of course, but the damage was done. I was weak, constantly weary, and lacked the energy to do almost anything.
Hearing Sir Casimir's tale, we can barely believe our ears. He struck a defenseless beggar outside of the church of Stendarr, the God of Mercy. We then ask the man damned by the divines and say, what about the gauntlets?
Ah, yes. As proof of the deed, when I struck the poor man, the gauntlets slipped right off my hands and fell to the floor. Heavy as stone, they would not move. None could lift them. I suspect they lie there still, in Chorrol's chapel. You must prove to Stendarr you are worthy to lift the gauntlets once more. Seek out the priests in Chorrol. Perhaps they can help you.
We can only begin to imagine what selfless act or incantation that the gods would demand to lift this curse. And so we ask Sir Casimir before leaving, what of the curse? Do you know how we could lift it?
It was placed on me for defying the teachings of Stendarr in his very chapel. My entire lineage was ruined by this curse. Whether it is connected to the fate of the gauntlets, I do not know.
His entire lineage. May Stendarr have mercy on their souls. So then we ask, do you know the exact location of the gauntlets of the Crusader?
I have no doubt that they still lie within the chapel of Stendarr in Chorrol. No mortal man could lift them.
No mortal? Perhaps the divines must intervene. And what of the knights?
We had only the best of intentions. Truly we did. We meant only to serve the Nine and the Empire. It's hard to believe it all went so wrong.
Well, they say the path to oblivion is paved with good intentions, and Umaril has returned from that very plane to seek his vengeance. So then we seek the wisdom of the other knights about and first speak to Sir Caius, who says of the gauntlets.
The gauntlets were recovered by Sir Casimir, one of our few victories during our time. But then, even our victories became our failure. Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
So then we speak to Sir Juncan, who shares.
Sir Casimir took the gauntlets to war with him. After what happened with Beric, who would try to stop him? Walk with the Nine, Sir Knight.
We then speak to the elf Sir Ralvis, who says,
Casimir left with the gauntlets when the Order dissolved. I heard that he lost them, but I had my own problems to deal with. Go with virtue.
And finally, before seeking out the gauntlets, we speak to Sir Casimir once more, and he imparts.
Seek out the priests in the chapel of Stendarr. They may be able to help you retrieve the gauntlets I lost so many years ago. Go with virtue.
As we move to leave in search of the gauntlets, a quest update saying, Sir Casimir has told me the Gauntlets of the Crusader are located in the Chapel of Stendarr in Chorrol. I must travel there and figure out how to retrieve them. As we make our way northwest across the cobbled path of Chorrol and towards the Chapel of Stendarr and across a beggar out front, a stark reminder of Sir Casimir's transgressions, and he says,
Have pity, sir. I got nothing to eat.
Cautious after Sir Casimir's tale, we bequeath the beggar with a single coin, and he blesses.
Thank you, kind sir. Blessings of Stendarr upon ye.
If only Sir Casimir did the same so many years ago, he and his line would not suffer the terrible curse. Once entering into the church, we then speak to the nearby chapel healer, Guerrerin Selvillo, who welcomes.
I'm the chapel healer, Guerrerin Selvillo. We're glad to see you paying your respects here at the chapel.
It's our pleasure, good sir. Can you tell us anything of the Gauntlets of the Crusader?
Oh, those. You'll want to speak to Areldur about them. He's in charge of keeping people away from them.
So there is another priest, Areldur, keeping others away from the Gauntlets. Curious. And what can you tell us of Chorrol itself?
In Chorrol, we Highlanders treat our god's teachings as rules to live by. Our lives are governed by the 10 Commands. Goodbye.
And the mortals who stray from the 10 Commands should fear the wrath of the Divines. Heading towards the chapel altar, we see an Imperial sporting a monk haircut named Otius Loran, living embodiment of Stendarr's virtues.
I'm Otius Loran, primate of Stendarr. You stand before God's servant in the House of the Nine. Be humble and show respect.
Indeed, good sir. Can you tell us of the Gauntlets of the Crusader we've heard of?
The Gauntlets, eh? They're Areldur's responsibility. Speak to him about them.
Goodbye.
Once again, we're pointed to Areldur, who is a high elf priest standing between the shrines of Julianos and Akatosh in the western wall. Approaching him, he questions.
What brings you here, my son?
We're on a divine quest to locate the Gauntlets of the Crusader.
Ah, yes. The Gauntlets have been here for ages. I know only the basic story behind them. They're more of a novelty these days. My only real involvement with them these days is keeping the youngsters from hurting themselves trying to pick the Gauntlets up. What is your interest in them, if I may ask?
I've come to retrieve the Gauntlets.
Oh, I'm afraid that's quite impossible. They don't move, not even a bit, as if they're the heaviest things in the world. Don't you know the story behind them? I'm not familiar with all the details, but I know roughly what happened.
It's then we can somewhat foolishly bypass the story and say, I don't care, I want them.
I'm telling you, you can't pick them up. Try it yourself if you won't believe me. Well, if you won't listen to me, then go ask Kellen. He's descended from the very knight who was cursed. He'll tell you the same thing.
Ignoring Areldur's warning, we head to the northwestern side of the chapel. Encircled in candles and commemorative flowers are the Gauntlets of the Crusader. However, when we try to lift them, a pop-up appears saying, the Gauntlets are too heavy to move. Striking them with the divine mace, they refuse to budge on the floor, and so we're forced to return to Areldur for further guidance, in which she reveals the dark past of the gloves.
Yes, well, I don't know the whole thing. A great many years ago, a knight of the old order did something terrible, and the gauntlets just fell off. They dropped to the floor right where he stood, and no one could lift them. It was a sign of the curse placed upon this knight by Stendarr, I think. That curse still lingers on today, in fact. Poor Kellen.
Who is Kellen?
Oh, why, he's a descendant of that very knight from so long ago. The curse has affected his family all these years. He suffers from it now. He came here from Hammerfell seeking a cure, but, well, there's really nothing that can be done for him, I think. He may know more of the story than I. Perhaps you should speak with him, if he's feeling well enough.
What a horrific fate for Kellen. Why would he still be cursed?
It's a horrible thing, truly. One cannot help but pity those such as Kellen, who have such a burden placed on them through no fault of their own. But if it is the will of the Nine, then there is little that can be done.
Something doesn't add up. Why would the Divines be so cruel to Kellen because of his lineage, no less?
The Gauntlets have been here far longer than any of us. I don't expect that to ever change. They'll almost certainly be here long after we're all gone. Certainly after Kellen's family has died out.
After Kellen's family has died out? What a morbid thought. Where is poor Kellen now?
He's down in the chapel hall, resting. You may speak to him if you like. Ask Kellen about the curse. Have you heard any word about the other provinces?
Leaving Areldur, our quest then updates saying, Areldur, a priest of Stendarr, has told me about the gauntlets of the Crusader that cannot be moved. I should speak with Kellen, a descendant of Sir Casimir, to learn more. Heading downstairs into the chapel hall, we then find in the west wing in a small room, the Redguard Kellen sitting atop a bed, looking pained in the strength it takes to feed himself. Approaching him, he says,
What is it? Is there a cure? Has Areldur found a cure? I know there's something he's not telling me.
I'm sorry I haven't found a cure. Can you tell me more about this curse and perhaps I can help, though?
Ah, so you've heard it, have you? Terrible curse. Been in the family almost longer than anyone can remember. When I was younger, I could live with it. Wasn't so bad. But it's only gotten worse over time. I'd come here, to the place it all happened, in the hopes that something could be done. I fear I haven't much time left otherwise. Areldur has let me stay, mostly out of pity, I think. But there's something else. I swear he knows more than he tells.
Why would Areldur withhold information that could help cure you? It makes no sense.
I've seen plenty of pity in people's eyes over the years. I grew up recognizing it. But with Areldur, there's something else there. And when he speaks to me, there are times I'd swear he sounds apologetic. Guilty, even. Why would that be? What reason does he have to hold back information? I know I'm a doomed man one way or the other. Speak to him if you can. Convince him to tell me what he knows as a dying man's last wish.
Before we leave to speak to the High Elf, we ask, look, I'm sorry to bring it up, but do you perhaps know anything about the gauntlets that could help us?
You've seen them, I assume. The only evidence of what happened so many years ago. Do you know that I thought perhaps I could lift them? That somehow this curse would be lifted if I could pick them up? I tried for hours, until my whole body ached, and I could barely move. I lay there on the floor next to them, weeping. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I've been at the end of my rope for far too long to be ashamed of anything. I don't know why they're still here. They're so heavy, and I'm so weak. What does Stendarr want from me? Goodbye.
What possibly could Stendarr, the divine aspect of mercy, want with poor Kellen? We head back into the chapel and try. And so we make our way into the chapel. Up the stairs, and by the altar near the gauntlets stands the High Elf Areldur, and we have more questions for him.
Welcome, Knight Commander.
Indeed. We spoke to Kellen, and he says you know more than you let on.
I cannot face him. I know what might be done for him, but I haven't the will to do it. I wish I could help him. Truly I do. But I cannot muster the strength to damn myself on his behalf.
You can't muster the strength to help him. What are you talking about?
The curse. I know what would lift it, but I cannot do it. The only way to free Kellen of his curse is to take it on myself. I am not strong enough to do this, and so I am a failure. I fail Kellen every time I speak to him, and I fail Stendarr every time I pray to him and do not ask for the power to lift the curse. Do you know one who would do such a thing? One who would pray at this chapel's altar, pray to Stendarr for the power to lift this curse?
Once Areldur has explained, we understand his plight, yet are baffled still why Stendarr would want another to bear this curse.
I've told you, the only way to lift the curse from Kellen is to pray to Stendarr for the power to free him. But that means taking the curse on yourself. You'll be marked for life, as will all your children and your children's children. You too.
So if we were to take on the curse, not only would we suffer, but our children's children. With our grim discovery in mind, we head down into the chapel hall to deliver the bad news.
Hello. You've spoken to him, haven't you? And he's told you something you don't want to tell me. I need someone to please tell me what's going on. Please, help me. Have mercy on me.
Kellen, look, it's about the curse.
So what can be done for me? I know you've learned something. I can see it in your face.
We then have two options, and the second is to lie to Kellen, saying, "Sorry, there's no way to save you."
Really? I see. Then I've no choice but to live out the rest of my days here, I suppose. After all this time, I can't help but hope just a little bit. Hope that somehow there might be a way to save myself.
Even with no cure, you still live in hope that the curse can be lifted?
Even if I am doomed, I still hold out hope that Stendarr will have mercy on me.
What miraculous faith the Kellen shows. We can then instead say, actually, there is a way to lift the curse, but you might not like it.
So someone could only lift the curse from me by taking it on themselves? No wonder Areldur didn't tell me. I'm not sure whether to call him a coward or simply say that I don't blame him. That'd be a large burden to bear. Thank you for being honest with me.
I'm sorry, I wish I could bear better news. I can only imagine how you must feel about another taking the curse in your place.
I'm not sure how I feel. To know that the curse can be lifted gives me hope, but to know that it also means damning another. Would someone taking that responsibility be merciful or suicidal? You too.
Merciful or suicidal, indeed. Although this is the most harrowing of the Crusader's tasks, we know what must be done, and so we head to the altar. It's there our quest updates, and checking our journal in front of the altar, it reads, "Priest has told me the only way to lift the curse from Kellen is to take it on myself. I need to pray at the altar in the chapel if I wish to lift the curse." We knew the divines demanded sacrifice, but not like this. How will we even defeat Umaril? With little recourse if we are to free Kellen of this malady. We place our full faith in the divines. Praying to Stendarr, we take the curse upon ourselves. Our journal then updates reading, "I've prayed at the altar in the chapel of Stendarr and have been granted the ability to lay hands on Kellen. I need to see him at once." Descending the stairs, we head inside the chapel hall's west wing where Kellen, perpetually bedridden, awaits our arrival.
Well met.
Inside our spellbook, we find the power Lay on Hands, where we can restore fatigue 10 on Kellen. The spell touches the Imperial, a quest update saying, "I have lifted the curse from Kellen," which means taking it on myself. As a result, I am weary and my fatigue has been affected. With the curse lifted, I can now retrieve the Gauntlets of the Crusader, but at what price?
How did you? I feel good. I feel good. I don't feel like death. I feel like running.
Entirely forget our fatigue symptoms as Kellen pops out of bed and starts sprinting around the hall cheering.
Look at me.
As our own fatigue begins to drain as we catch up to Kellen, he remarks,
I can't believe it. I feel normal. Thank you so much. You have no idea what this means to me. I know what you've done to free me from this curse. I don't claim to understand why you take it on yourself, but I appreciate it. It means more to me than I can say. Now I think I need to start living my life. I'm going to get out of here and see the world. Thank you, friend. Take care.
Momentarily winded, we pause and see the effect on ourselves is the Curse of the Consumed, where it damages our fatigue 5, and our fatigue is depleted even by simply running. Shunting the newly formed pain aside, we see the High Elf priest Areldur once more and let him know that Kellen is freed of the curse.
Hi there! You lifted the curse? But that means that now you've cursed yourself. Why would you do such a thing? You too.
Leaving the priest of Stendarr to his disbelief, we have little more to do but to lift the gauntlets of the Crusader. Ironically, once equipped, the gauntlets boast +5 to restoration, +50% resist to disease, and a spell called Merciful Touch, which restores 50 health points on touch. Feeling the healing power of Stendarr's gauntlets firsthand shakes Areldur's faith to its core.
I can't believe you were willing to do that for Kellen. To sacrifice your own well-being without hesitation. What business do I have acting as a priest if I'm not willing to do all I can in helping those who need it? Perhaps I need to rethink my calling.
With that, Areldur about faces to leave the chapel. We can try and stop him, but he simply says,
Please, leave me be. I need time to think on what I've seen and done. Good day.
And as we leave the chapel, as if destiny had ordained it, an old beggar approaches a guard who brushes him aside callously.
A coin for an old beggar?
Miraculously, when we return to the Priory, we find Areldur chatting to one of the knights, and approaching him he says,
I find myself here, at your disposal. I want to make up for the mistakes I've made, and devote myself fully to the faith. If it pleases you, I would join your order and serve the 9 at your side. What say you?
Not holding him to his past mistakes or errs against the 9, we say, I accept. Welcome to the order.
Thank you. It means a great deal to me. Excuse me while I gather the equipment I need.
So Areldur leaves to become better equipped in the armory.
You're not alone. We all find the waiting difficult at times. I will pray for you, and I ask the same of you. Go with the blessing.
Until later, Sir Knight.
Commander.
Commander.
We then make our way downstairs to fully welcome Areldur into the order and ask him of the gauntlets one last time, and he says,
It is an honor to serve under you, Crusader. Take care.
And with that, the end of the quest for the Crusader's relics draws near, with only 2 relics remaining.